Hey guys, it's Cameron, and I wanted to share with you in this video why companies aren't wanting to hire you and why you're collecting rejection emails, being ghosted, and not ultimately getting the roles that you actually want in life. Now, at the moment, the job market is incredibly saturated and it's overly and highly competitive as well, which ultimately is making it a lot more difficult to actually land the roles that you actually want and land your ideal job. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Cameron. I'm a six-figure 23-year-old ex-Apple engineer actively in the industry with a first-class degree, certifications, so on and so on. And I've kind of really seen a lot of the industry, right? Of tech specifically, but also just kind of the job market and industry in general. And I want to actually share with you some key, detailed, actionable pieces of advice that can actually help you in terms of landing the role that you're actually looking for without kind of any of the hurdles or any of the rejection emails continuing into the next year. So there's going to be about 6 key points that I'm going to cover, and 5 and 6 are the most important. But let's actually start with number 1. So number 1 is that the companies don't actually know who they want to hire, but they have a rough idea. And what I mean by that is the companies genuinely do not know who they want to hire for that particular role. They have an idea because they've spoken with the team and whatnot, but ultimately the company's putting out these job postings is going to be HR. Now, HR is not technical in the realm that you want to work in. So let's say that you want to go into marketing. They're not going to know too much about marketing. Same as tech, same as, being a lawyer, right? Or a doctor or whatever. They only relay on the information based on those specific technical teams. And when I say technical, I just mean any industry that isn't HR. So HR, they have no idea. They then speak to that team. That team wants to hire, let's say, 6 people for the next year coming up, right? So HR then says, okay, cool, what would you like them to have? Now, those teams are then going to just basically relay on to HR the basic general areas that they want the candidate to have experience in. So they may say, oh, well, we would ideally like them to have like X years of experience or this certification or understand this topic quite well and that kind of stuff. And then because HR isn't technical in that realm, they just take whatever that team has said, that manager or whatnot, and put it in the job description, right? Because you're not going to change things just in case it doesn't make sense anymore. So that's ultimately what they do. So companies don't actually know what they want, but they have an idea, right? And when I say companies, I guess in this regard, it's mainly HR. But essentially, you want to understand this from the get-go, right? Because if you understand this, you know that you don't actually want to directly correlate and match what they're looking for, because they don't even know what they're looking for themselves in most cases, right? And this kind of brings me into point 2, which is that you shouldn't match exactly what they want because they don't even know what they want to begin with, right? And this is the hardest part, I think, because it's like, I've been doing this for a while now, like 4 years of just trying to figure out what companies are looking for and then, specifically how to kind of reflect that to them, but in a unique way. And this is something that I would encourage you to do as well. So instead of just basically being a reflection in the mirror of exactly what they're looking for, instead what I would recommend is to be unique but similar to what they're looking for. Nobody, right? It doesn't matter if you're, the best person for your industry and for your role. No one should ever, or no one will ever, match exactly what the company is looking for, right? Everybody's going to have different backgrounds, skill sets, be unique in their own ways, and you should actually embrace that. You want to embrace that so you are actually being unique, but you're similar, right? And what that means is you're not matching the job description one-to-one, but it is similar to your experience, your background, your skill set, right? Because you will bring things to the table that they haven't specifically mentioned, and that may actually be advantageous to the company than something that they have mentioned, right? So it's important to actually be unique in your own ways and be similar to what they're looking for, but it's not a reflection, right? Because, as we mentioned in point 1, they have an idea of what they're looking for, but they don't know exactly. Now, point 3 is going to be about identifying what parts are going wrong, right? Chances are if you're watching this video, you're not getting the amount of interviews or the amount of offers that you ideally want to be getting, right? So you want to identify the parts that are potentially going wrong and the areas where they're going wrong as well. So, for example, if you're not passing interviews, or maybe even you're not getting any interviews in the first place, right? So identify the previous steps that you've done and identify where you may potentially have went wrong or what might be potentially incorrect with them as well. And I'll give you an example, right? So let's say that you're collecting rejection emails before you even get an interview, right? So that specifically means that it's an issue regarding any submitted supported documents for those roles that you're going for, right? So what is that going to be? Well, that's going to be things like your cover letter. It's going to be things like your CV. It's going to be things like any other supported documents that you've listed, right? If you've listed your LinkedIn profile, maybe it could be that as well. And basically you just identify where it could be wrong, and then you deeply analyze that to find out what you can curate and make better to improve the chances of then getting interviews and stopping those rejection emails being so frequent. So that is what I mean. You need to identify like the steps in terms of like where you're going wrong and kind of what step that you're currently in, like the situation, and then the previous steps to actually analyze before that as well. Right, and that's something that I can actually help with, right? That's what I help my students with, but that's ultimately something that is very important to do on your end as well. Now, step 4 is then going to be about asking yourself this question. Are you generating confidence and trust for you as a candidate for these companies? And are you making them feel like you are genuinely the best solution and person to go with? If the answer to that is yes, then fantastic, you should be getting a lot of offers. If the answer is no, which might potentially be the case, then you want to try to identify how you're saying and wording certain things and also what you're saying as well, and portraying the appropriate amount of value to actually generate these interviews and offers for you, right? You can say the right thing, but if you say it in slightly the wrong way, it can give you completely different results, right? And that can be positive, that can be negative, but that's ultimately how it works as well. So try to identify if you're saying the right things firstly, and secondly, if you're portraying them in the correct manner as well. So, and I'll give you an example for this, right? Let's say that you're in an interview and the company says, so why do you want to work at this company? Maybe, okay, I used to work at Apple, so let's take Apple as an example. If I said in that interview, like, oh, I love Apple because, I have all of their products, they do amazing work and it's all innovation, and I've been following them since I was 8 years old on LinkedIn and social media, and absolutely love this company and I can't wait to be, working at this company. I might be saying the right things, right? Like showing interest in the company and whatnot, but I'm saying it all in the wrong way, right? I'm coming across as needy and desperate for the role, opposed to being confident in my skill sets and making and attracting Apple towards hiring me, opposed to me wanting to be hired by them. So it's all about how you say things as well, which holds a lot of the weight. So make sure that you ask yourself that question and find out where the answer lies, and if you can improve on any sort of aspect of that to ultimately start increasing the response rates and interviews and offers from the companies for you as a candidate as well. Now, and this is a bit of a side note, I guess, but like companies will happily pay you more if they genuinely believe that you are the best solution for the role that they're hiring for. They have no problem doing that. They have no problem exceeding the budget slightly to actually get you in. If you genuinely are just kind of wiping the competition out of the market and you are genuinely the best solution. So never undervalue yourself. It's probably better to overvalue yourself ever so slightly, because it means that you're having that perceived value from these companies before they even hire you. So then it makes them think like, oh, well, if they want this amount, then clearly they know what they're doing. Clearly they have a very strong, valuable skill set, and it just makes them want you even more, essentially. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But yeah, the last one is going to be just about a value exchange, right? The value exchange is very important because with a value exchange, you're showing what value you can provide to the company and what value they can provide back to you. And that's essentially how business works. Is exactly how you'd be hired for any role in any industry, right? You demonstrate the value that you can provide, and if it's in alignment with what the company is looking for, then they will provide you value back. Now, the value that they provide you back is going to be in the form of compensation, so money and things like that. It's going to be benefits, it's going to be experience, It's going to be having the opportunity and ability to afford a roof over your head as well. And basically kind of everything like that, right? Paid time off, remote work perhaps as well, depending on the role and that kind of stuff. Now, the value that you're going to provide to them is going to be technical skill sets that you have, right? Whether that's marketing, being a lawyer, doctor, working in tech, whatever it may be. And you're going to be providing that value to the company to solve hard, complex problems that they currently have, that they have no way of actually fixing themselves. So for example, let's say that you're an open heart surgeon. Well, they need open heart surgeons to save people's lives. HR isn't going to be able to do that themselves, so therefore they need to hire someone who's actually qualified to do so, and that may be you, right? It's the same for tech, right? If they want to expand and scale, tech infrastructure that they have, or like secure it or build even more, you need to, if you can portray that value to them, then they're going to happily pay you for that, right? So it's just purely a value exchange, right? And that's probably the best way of actually thinking about being hired for any industry, for any role, because it makes you realize that, okay, well, if I'm not getting the interviews that I want, if I'm not getting the offers that I want, perhaps, and let's look inwards, perhaps it's something that I can actually improve upon for my value, because the more value that you can provide, the more companies you're actually going to attract to you as a candidate as well, right? And those are going to be the 6 steps that you genuinely need to land any role in any industry for 2026 and moving forward. And by the way, guys, like I help people land high-paying tech roles with ease, regardless of background, experience, if you have a degree or not. And if you need help with any of this from a tech perspective, what I'll do is I'll pop a link in the top of the description where you can actually book in a call with me, and we can actually discuss how I can help you further and us potentially working together as well. But overall, these are the 6 key points that you do need to hone in on and actually use and leverage to actually break into any role for any niche that you possibly want moving into 2026. So yeah, guys, that is the 6 steps, and make sure to implement those, and I'll see you in the next video.